Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. We're very excited that you are here to join us. This podcast is going to be a kind of Star Trek themed, but also we may have a few rabbit trails down into other sci-fi properties, IPs, books, movies, TV shows. I think you'll be surprised at what you hear on here. But Star Trek is our first love, so we'll be talking a lot about that. So I'd like to welcome my friend Jordan Morris, who is going to be the co-host of this podcast. Welcome, Jordan.
Thanks, bro. Cutis. Always good to be here.
Oh, I always love hearing that every time. Oh, yeah. We are definitely we are the bro cutest of Borg, and so. Jordan, what do we have on deck, I should say, for our first episode of this podcast?
Well, we finally have some news. It's been a little bit of a quiet time so far in 2025 here with Trek and Trek news, but we have Strange New Worlds Season 3 dropping on July the 17th with a double episode premiere. So we thought today we would look back at previous seasons of Strange New Worlds, since it has been over 2 years since we got Season 2, and give everybody a refresher, and then maybe talk about Season 3 and what we've heard, what we're looking forward to, and go from there.
That sounds great, Jordan. Let's dive in, because it has been a long time since Season 2 of Strange New Worlds. And I think, overall, Season 2 was very well received. I mean, Season 1 was well received as well. But, I think from all the chatter that I saw online, everyone really, really enjoyed Season 2 a lot. We had a lot of standout episodes in that. We had the musical.
It was so delightful.
So delightful. And the thing is, I was dreading that episode. Like, I honestly thought it was going to be terrible. I remember thinking oh my gosh, here we go. And it was so delightful. I loved it. We had the Khan episode, which was great as well. We had you may have to refresh my memory on the episode title, but the war crimes episode.
Under the Cloak of War, yes, that was great.
Such a great episode. There was a lot that really came in Season 3 to develop our characters and everything. So, I mean, overall, what did you think of Season 2? How did you feel about it?
Well, I loved it. I mean, I love musicals, and I mean, my personal favorite up to this one was the Scrubs musical episode. In terms of this musical episode, the Scrubs is my favorite. I have not seen the Buffy one. I've been told that is also up there. It was brilliant. Then I'm trying to think. Obviously, the War Crimes episode was great. Just really getting that great character work with Dr. Mbenga. And gonna have a little bit of a nerd out here, but the Tomorrow, the Khan episode, where an alternate universe version of Kirk and La'an go back in time and meet Khan. First off, it's brilliant, and if you really think about it, any inconsistencies you've seen in Trek over the years, if you think about it, how do you know someone wasn't messing with the timeline? So you can kind of literally explain away every inaccuracy and inconsistency and just say, oh, someone was messing with the timeline, and was this before somebody did something, after somebody did something? Like, it kind of explains away everything if you think about it.
I completely agree with you. And that was part of the reason I really did enjoy that episode a lot, was because it fixed a lot of, I mean, I wouldn't say there was ever major lore issues with Star Trek that people actually cared about or felt that it broke, the saga or anything like that. But this episode really did allow a lot of those changes to become canon by saying, okay, this is why it's happening, basically. And using the eugenics wars, I think, to kind of showcase that was just very smart. And yeah, it was a great episode, because I always love the going back in time and going back to, kind of a somewhat today's world a little bit is always fun. And just, throwing in our favorite villain, Khan in there is just awesome. And especially, I think, having his descendant be part of that is really cool too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It just, you get alternate universes, time travel, and Khan all in one episode. I mean, that's like a the fanfic writes itself. I mean, really.
Oh, absolutely. And we even got a little bit of more information about Leon, that there might be more to her than we know, because they kind of hint that she may have some like augmentations that have survived, the family tree, I guess you could say, going
passed down.
someone. We don't know what those are, and they didn't really go into it, but we found out that she might have some of that. We don't know.
I almost wondered if we would get another Brent Spiner as whatever soon cameo in that episode. It would have been around the time the Soong from Picard season 2. I'm having a brain fart, but that Soong, like, was he a part on that? He probably was, because there's that Easter egg in Picard season 2 where he pulls out the Project Con folder, so he's probably involved with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, because he had to have been involved at some point, and I agree with you. I was expecting him to show up in that episode. It may have been a budget issue, maybe, of having to
True,
trim.
yeah. Spiner's not cheap, so
no, he's definitely not cheap. But I do agree that I was expecting that, because we know he was involved somehow in that project, and the episode alludes that we're probably 10 years after Picard season 2, somewhere around there, with Khan's age that we see. If we're guessing that Khan wasn't born yet in Picard season 2, we don't know. So it's definitely very interesting. And also it's a little intriguing too, since we're already talking about Leon a bit, that that we kind of see her story develop a little bit more in the musical, in her actual song that she sings, which is kind of interesting, because they left the door open with her, that, I mean, they could develop her a bit as a villain if they wanted to, because we do see in her song that she sings that she's kind of having this breakthrough of turning into a different person. And then at the end, she backtracks and she talks about how she, how she's giving up on faith and embracing fear a little bit more. And so it was a little interesting that I thought, I wonder, they could continue her on the way they're going, but if they wanted to kind of go a bit of an antagonistic route, they could, if they wanted to. Oh,
easy. She's got so much potential to go in any direction they would like to take her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. She's definitely a standout, one that I think is one of the most intriguing characters in Strange New Worlds, I think, though all of them have so much potential.
Yeah. I mean, she could have been a cliche, and it's like, really, you're shoehorning in Khan's descendant who we've never heard about, I'm not gonna lie. When I first heard about her, I'm like, we have Spock's unknown sister, in Discovery, or we're getting Khan's unknown great granddaughter, but it's going very well so far.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah, because it's true. When I first heard it, I was intrigued, but I felt the same way as you. I was like, okay, this feels like a little too much of the Descendants. But like you said, they've taken it in a good direction, and it has worked, and I think it's strengthened the series overall. And going back, I think to the Cloak of War, with M'Banga, that was such a good episode, and it reminded me so much of classic Trek, of what we know. The other day, I've been watching through Deep Space Nine, and I watched the episode The Quickening, and with Dr. Bashir, and how he's trying to cure this blight that the Jem'Hadar have put on this planet, and everybody is diseased and dying. And it was just, I loved how mature the episode was, and it was this simple idea of of Bashir having to confront his pride and his arrogance a bit as being this intelligent doctor of trying to solve something. But then we're also seeing another idea of another almost a version of him on the planet, who's a doctor on that planet, who's gone the other extreme, and it was just I loved it. And I loved how you didn't get a full happy ending to it, that the character you're rooting for still dies, and there's kind of a cure, but at the same time, it's not perfect. And it was just it was the epitome of Trek for me, of of this kind of moral quandaries and everything. And that's what I loved so much about that episode that we got in Strange New Worlds, that it felt like they had fully embraced kind of that difficult concept that kind of made you a little bit uncomfortable.
And they don't give you a definitive ending. Did the ambassador attack Mbenga and he defended himself, or did he just outright kill him? You know, it's up to the viewer to determine. And it's like you said, that classic Trek morality play, and it was just top-notch writing. Absolutely.
It was absolute top-notch. And yeah, because I remember I saw in some interviews where they said that they filmed multiple endings for that episode of actually showing what happened. And, you know, that I think they said they filmed an ending where he outright kills the ambassador. They filmed an ending where he defended himself. But then they kind of said they felt that both of those endings kind of cheapened the episode a bit. You know, that they felt letting the viewer decide for themselves, you know, strengthened it. And I think it was the absolute best decision that they could have made.
Inception came out 15 years ago, and we still have people talk about, you know, did he get out, or is he still in the dream? You know.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, as the years go on, there are going to be people talking about, okay, is Mbenga a murderer or is he not? You know, like that's going to be something that's talked about going forward. And yeah, just very great. You know, and I think we should probably talk a little bit too, you know, before we talk about season 3, you know, we got that cliffhanger ending.
Oh gosh, yes, probably the best cliffhanger since Best of Both Worlds.
I think I agree with you there, because it was it felt like Best of Both Worlds, you know, in the sense, very much.
And then it's been drug out for 2 years, so it's just making the wait unbearable.
It is like, I think about it every so often, and I'm like, oh man, I want to see what happened there, because I really liked, and I know there are some people who dislike this, and on the Trek, you know, forums I've seen, there's a little bit of controversy with it, but I think it's with a smaller minority, who have been a little upset over the changes made to the Gorn. But overall, like, I really kind of like how they have made the Gorn almost a bit like the Xenomorphs. I think it's been kind of interesting.
Took the words out of my mouth. No, they're absolutely terrifying, and we all love the Klingons. We've had our Klingons. It's a little early for the Romulans. You can do some stuff with them, but, you know, you can't show their faces just yet unless you know, then you get another canon issue, which you can explain away, but, you know, it's another hoop to jump through. But no, I'm loving what they've done with the Gorn. And, you know, for anybody, as one who can be a bit of a canon purist myself, how do we know there's not multiple, you know, sex or species of Gorn? You know, maybe the upright Gorn who we saw in Arena is more of a different, you know, there's how many types of lizards, you know, on Earth? What's to say there's not multiple species, subspecies, you know, nationalities? Like, there's like, don't limit yourself to be a canon Nazi, I guess, is my thoughts on that.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think that that's a very good, you know, note to make about the Gorn, because we have seen, you know, throughout Star Trek that there have been various types and subspecies within races of these, you know, aliens. You know, obviously we've seen it with the Klingons, that there's a bunch of you know, of different forms of them that have been made. And I think that there probably is some evidence, honestly, for, you know, for different types of Gorn, because, like you said, we have the ones from Strange New World, we have the upright one from Arena, and then we also have the Gorn that showed up in Enterprise as well.
Oh, and the In a Mirror Darkly, yeah,
which is, even that one looks a little bit different than the other two that we just mentioned. And so I think we can definitely say, you know, like you said, there's so many different types of lizards on Earth. Why wouldn't there be different types of Gorn as well? But yeah, I mean, I loved how they made them just terrifying. We have, you know, them implanting the eggs in people. It's horrifying. You know, it's like,
I know. I still miss Hammer.
Oh, I do too. He was a great character. I really do miss him. You know, he had he went out in a great way, but yeah, you know, there's always a character that you're going to be like, oh man, I kind of miss this dude. But, you know, so this kind of brings us a little bit to now, you know, season 3. So I guess Jordan, you can start us off. What are you expect? What are your expectations for this season?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be great. I mean, some episodes are always going to be better than others, but I mean, consistently Strange New Worlds has been the highs. There are a lot more highs than lows, very few lows in my opinion. And they're getting crazier and crazier in the best possible way. I'm really looking forward to the murder mystery episode that Jonathan Frakes directed, which he's quoted as saying it's the best piece of television he's ever directed, which the guy's directed a lot of TV, so high praise. That's the episode where you see in the trailer it's Lon and Spock, and there's a TNG style holodeck behind them. So again, for your canon purist, I'm thinking this is not on the Enterprise. Maybe it's some, Federation research station. They're stopped somewhere and they have this precursor holodeck to what we'll see obviously on TNG and such. But that looks interesting. I mean, we obviously all want to see the conclusion to the finale. Does Captain Batel survive? How does Scotty incorporate into the show, since he is now going to be a series regular? And obviously, I think the other big thing people are talking about, well, before I get to that, the few lesser things, the zombie Klingons is not what I was expecting to see. Well, at least what appears to be zombie Klingons. But you know what? We got zombie Vulcans on Enterprise, so I mean, why not? It's not what any of us were expecting, but that keeps it fresh. But no, the big thing I think is I think everybody wants to see Rhys Darby, and I think you and I will be in agreement that he's playing Trelane.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And are we finally going to get it canonized that Trelane is a member of the Q continuum? I think that's very likely. What I find interesting, when Kirk and Spock met Trelane, he was young, but is this an older Trelane? And time has not flowed. It's not a sequential, linear flow of time. So he appears, an older version of him appearing in the past from his earlier canon appearance where he's younger, even though it's later in the future. And I apologize for anyone I just gave a headache by saying that.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I think that is who he's going to be playing, and I do think it is going to be canonized that he's a Q. And I think having a Q appearance in Strange New Worlds is going to be great. I really am hoping they go that direction. I think seeing how Spock and Pike respond to a Q would be really interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I expect him to make a joke about Pike's hair too.
I hope so.
I kind of hope so. That would just be glorious.
Yeah, Pike's hair is like one of the most amazing things in Star Trek. It gets higher with every season and just more glorious with every season.
Oh yeah, Pike's Peak is a character in and of itself.
Yes, it absolutely is. And I hope that reference is made, that someone says Pike's Peak. It needs to happen. So if anyone from the show is listening, please make that happen.
Yes, please. Everyone would love to hear it.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think if there's any other. I'm looking forward. I don't want to know too much, there's that other clip where it looks like they're in an old sci-fi show and they're done up from the 60s. Jess Bush definitely has a 60s retro like hairstyle and the vibe, and sort of the cardboard sets and such.
Mm-hmm. I know that there was some people who had complained with season 2 that they felt there was too many comedy episodes, that it was like 30%. I think it was 3 episodes, so 30% of the show was like comedy. But kind of my rebuttal to that would be that Strange New Worlds was never presented as being a serious or dark show like Deep Space Nine. It was always kind of portrayed as being this adventure show, very much like the original series. And so I never had a problem with a lot of the comedic elements, to it, because we have gotten some of those very serious episodes as well. But yeah, how do you feel about having like a lot of comedy in this show?
You know, we remember the funnier times in life. I mean, you remember the serious times too, but I don't know anybody who wants life to be serious all the time. So I have no issue with the comedy. I can see where it sort of gets to be, they can be a lot of silly episodes in succession. My solution to that is we just need more episodes so then they don't have to complain. But I understand there's budgetary constraints, but God, what I'd kill for like 13, I think is like the magic number.
I agree.
You could do like 6 mid-season finale and then 6 more, and then we don't have to wait a year. They can stretch it out, but that's a whole nother topic of discussion. But everything they've done so far, if it's fresh, it's creative. If it tends to lean overly on the humorous side, I would rather have more overly humorous Trek than no Trek at all. So again, sort of I don't know, complaining for the sake of complaining is, nobody's going to like everything, but I don't have an issue with it myself.
No, I completely agree. And especially because those 3 comedic episodes in season 2 were great, that they were well written. They were hilarious, that it wasn't like it was poor humor or anything like that. So yeah, I'm the same way. Like, as long as they can keep the writing, top tier with the comedy, I'm all for it. I always love to laugh. Now, one thing that I am looking for that I really hope that we get in season 3 is we got that tease about Sybok, and I need a payoff for that. I need it so badly.
So my thoughts, I'm, again, in complete agreement. I feel like if they're going to do it, they're not going to announce who's playing him. They've announced, you and I had speculated maybe that's who Rhys Darby was playing, but we clearly know that's not the case now. They have announced an actor is playing Dr. Roger Corby from What Are Little Girls Made Of, who is engaged to Nurse Chapel at some point. So we know we'll be seeing him, which great callback to the original series, by the way, there. But yeah, I'm hoping we get a Sybok resolution. Like, we need to see he and Spock together while they're younger. And as far as, I'll be fascinated to find who they have play him, because it could be, I don't have any idea who, but I want to see who portrays him, how he's written. It could be really interesting.
I agree. I would love to see it happen, because I know, because I've always said, The Final Frontier, Star Trek V is not a good movie. There's a lot of, there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that went on and everything that kind of just derailed that film, unfortunately. But I have always said that Sybok is one of the most interesting villains in Star Trek. Just because he's so different, his motivations are so interesting that just I feel like in a properly made Star Trek V, I think he could have been like a rival to Chang and Khan easily. And so I feel like if Strange New Worlds can, bring in a younger version of him, have some type of interaction with him and Spock, and kind of maybe show the seeds of his philosophy and how he ended up the way he did, I think retroactively it would make Star Trek V a better film if we can get a couple episodes maybe with him in Strange New Worlds.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because he doesn't see himself as a villain at all, which is what the best villains do. He sees himself as he's liberating and helping other people. It's just from a whole different philosophical perspective. It'd be interesting too if he makes a reference about Burnham. But yeah, whatever happened to our sister, by the way?
It's true. I would love to get a reference to that. Yeah.
Or it would actually be kind of cool just to get a flashback where you got to see the 3 siblings together at once, because we'll never get that otherwise.
No, I would love a flashback of showing them all together. And now here's an interesting point, that something, if they wanted to tie it all together, that would be very interesting. Wouldn't it be fascinating if they did some type of a flashback and they revealed that Burnham was the one who planted the seed in his head that led him down the path he did of emotion and like being free from the shackles that he said. It would be fascinating.
Ooh, interesting. I hadn't considered that, but that's ooh, I kind of like that.
Yeah, I think it could be interesting of kind of showing maybe what the impact of having like a human, maybe being raised in this Vulcan home with two very different brothers. I don't know. I think it could be interesting. It'd have to be written properly, but I wouldn't be opposed to seeing something like that.
Oh no, the other just random Easter egg. I really wish they had. She wasn't well enough to do this, I'm sure, when they were filming season 1. But I wish they could have. They'd show Uhura in her quarters, because she talks about in one of those other episodes about her grandmother who had been in Starfleet, who took her in after the rest of her family had died, and you have a picture of the grandmother, and it's Nichelle Nichols.
Oh, that would be amazing.
That would be an amazing tribute. Like, it would have been great to have her like hail her and on the comm, but I'm sure she wasn't. Didn't work out, and she probably wasn't well enough. But just to have that Easter egg in there, I think would hit home with so many fans.
Absolutely.
Sorry, random sidebar, but wanted to add that in.
No, honestly, like those are the kind of things that I would love to see, in like Strange New Worlds, like more of those type of and I wouldn't even call them callbacks. I would say like tributes,
Exactly.
Just a side thing, like, I know they've already announced we already have the directors, obviously, for season 3, but I would also love to see maybe some more classic like Star Trek directors maybe come back, in the future. Like, I would love to see my brain, the director of Wrath of Khan.
Nicholas Meyer.
Nicholas Meyer. I would love to see him come and like do an episode of Strange New Worlds. Would be so cool. Because he has such a great relationship with Trek. I read his biography, and it was just so interesting. So like, I would love to see a little bit, maybe more of that too. Like, maybe pull some of the popular directors from, maybe TNG or Voyager or something, and bring them in for one episode, maybe.
Or go really outside the box and see if George Lucas will direct an episode.
Oh, honestly, I would love to see, like, that's the kind of stuff I would love to see, because like, in all honesty, like, I feel like George Lucas would maybe do it, honestly.
He might do it if he's unhappy with some of the direction of current Star Wars. That would be so funny.
Oh, that would be honestly hilarious, because he did direct a scene of Solo.
Yes, that's right, he did.
So he was willing to come and direct a scene, and so like, that would be so amazing to do something like that. And like I said, he might be willing to do it, because it would be, a week or two of his time. Oh man, I would love that.
Another thing, at least something I think we'll see. We've gotten Kirk, Scotty, and Spock and her are already on the Enterprise, but will we see? I think Chekhov's a little young. I don't know if we'll see Chekhov, but do we see McCoy or Sulu this season get introduced? I think it's definitely a distinct possibility.
I think it's definitely a possibility, yeah, because, as we know, this show is definitely leading up to the original series. Now, we don't know exactly how long this show is going to be. We know the plan is at least 5 seasons. We know that. But we don't know if there's a plan for it to go on beyond that, to 7 seasons or so, like the original. We don't know. But I definitely could see, since most shows when they're pitched have a show Bible that goes to 5 seasons is kind of the standard normally. So I could definitely see them starting to move in, introducing those characters. So I think you're right. We would, at the very least, I could see maybe getting a reference to them this season, if not a full-on introduction. But I think season 4, it's probably a foregone conclusion they'll at least show up there.
Agreed. Part of me would also like to see, can we get, if we're getting Trelane this season, do we get maybe a Kang, Por, or Koloff show up in one of these, or does Pike have a Klingon rival, a contemporary who's almost like his rival. There's some in like the old novels and comics.
Mm-hmm.
Kazara, because it starts with a K, as most Klingon names do. I'm blanking on it, what it was, but yeah, a Klingon contemporary for Pike would be interesting.
I would actually be very interested in that, because that, I would say, that's the only slight issue that I have with Strange New Worlds overall, is that I because I know it's a standalone, each we're episodic, I know, in this show, but we do have themes that have carried over and emotional journeys from characters that have continued on in a serialized format. I would love to see some type of overarching villain, that is introduced, that kind of continues till the end of the show, whether in season 3 and then they continue on. And like you said, like maybe a Klingon rival to Pike could be really interesting, where maybe they show up, once or twice a season, until the last season of the show, when we get a bit of a finale with them. I think would be very interesting, because I do enjoy narrative threads, I guess you could say, of like how we have certain characters or certain villains. We had in TNG, we had Sela, show up, from time to time as kind of this antagonist. Was interesting.
Sela, lore, you get your
lore.
Q episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
exactly.
In the Flash, everybody looked forward to the Mark Hamill episode every season.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. It was like, oh man, we were so excited to see him back again. And same with like Reverse Flash. It was like, we loved Reverse Flash. And it was like, we knew, oh, he's going to show up, and so, yeah, I would love to kind of see some type of character like that show up. Now maybe, who knows? Maybe that can be Sybok. Maybe he can be. Yeah.
Do you have any? I'm sorry. Finish your thought.
Oh, no. Go for it. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts on who you think could play Sybok?
Oh, that's a really good question, because I've been kind of thinking about it a little bit, because and it's definitely a tough thing, because he's a flamboyant character, but he's also kind of dark, mysterious. Like there's elements to him that it's kind of hard that an actor would have to play over the course of however many episodes. So I'm trying to think of like some people here who married, because of course it was Lawrence Luckinbill who played him in Star Trek V.
Son-in-law of Lucille Ball.
Really? I did not know that.
He's married to Lucy Arnaz.
I did not know that. Oh, man, there's
your fun fact for today's episode.
Oh, honestly, that is really, really interesting.
So, while you speculate, so obviously he could pull off Sybok. He's too old, but he would make a very interesting Klingon. And I don't know why I'm doing so many Star Wars references in my head today, but can you imagine Mark Hamill?
Oh,
he's too old to be Sybok now. Obviously, putting Mark Hamill first off, it'd be hilarious.
No, that would be really funny to see that, and he would do it too.
Oh yeah, he would do it. I mean, his most well-known role is obviously Luke Skywalker, but I think most people who know his body of work would say his best role is the Joker.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely, yes. Mm-hmm. How old is Sybok supposed to be in Strange New Worlds?
See, that's a great question, because I know he's older than Spock, but there's no clear, definitive date when he's born. So, I mean, Sarek dies in 2368, and I believe it's 203. So he's born right around the time Enterprise ends. So, I mean, Sybok could be legitimately probably up to 40-ish years older than Spock if you really wanted to. There has to be enough time for the first wife to either... There's nothing in primary canon about Sybok's mother. There's certain things in beta canon. She basically undergoes, I think, Kolinar, and like, that's it. And I think Sybok has grown and have basically like left the house either by the time Spock is born or before. So they could technically go. Vulcans don't age like humans do, but they could go a little bit older if they wanted to, which would be a really interesting perspective.
That actually would be interesting, because I'm trying to think. Because I'm trying to think how much older they were in Star Trek V, because obviously Vulcans have different lifespans, but because he was, as you said, obviously older than Spock.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities.
No, it's absolutely true. Like there was the and this is kind of like a this is a very, very, very outside the box casting for him, extremely. And I think there's a lot of people who might kind of strongly disagree with this, but I think it might work. Okay. So Lawrence Luckinbill, when you look at him when he was young, so like the 70s, kind of 80s, into the 90s and all that, but especially when he was young in like the 70s, he had a very James Garner look to him. Like he kind of had a like with his facial features and everything, like he definitely looked like he could have passed as like a brother of James Garner or something like that. And so my kind of off the book casting would be, and he's a little bit older, so I don't know how it would exactly work, but I would love to see Vince Vaughn.
Oh, that is not who I was thinking you would say, but interesting.
It is a weird casting because Vince Vaughn can pull off James Garner really well. He has a very interesting look, and if you put, like, I think with a beard and like the longer hair and everything, I think he might. And he also does dramatic acting very well. Most people only know him from his comedy. But if you see like some of his like stuff like Dragged Across Concrete, Cell Block, I can't remember what it was called. There was one called Cell Block something
And
that he was in.
He's Norman Bates in the Psycho remake, is he not?
I believe he was, yes. And so he can do drama. He can do drama really well. And so I don't know, that's my very left field casting. That I think would be interesting.
I've got another left field idea for you.
Okay, so, let's hear it.
I don't have a specific actor in mind. I'll clarify that first. Are you aware of who the original choice was to play Sybok in Star Trek V?
Wasn't it Sean Connery?
It was Sean Connery, but he was contractually obligated. He'd already signed the deal for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and after the 1988 writer's strike, stuff got delayed, and he wasn't able to participate. But that's why the whole, center of the universe is Shaka Ray.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that comes from. But what if they went like Sybok is Scottish and you just don't explain it? He's just Scottish in honor of your tribute to Sean Connery, who never got to be in Star Trek. But that would be, most people probably wouldn't get it, and that's just a fun idea. They would never do that, but it would be funny.
That would honestly be like really funny, actually, if they did that, or they put like a thick Scottish accent on him. Oh, that would actually be really, really interesting. Oh, now there is also another option too that we have now seen because of The Mandalorian and other shows, that if they really wanted to, they could actually have Lawrence Luckinbill play Sybok again, and they could have a stand-in actor with a de-age Lawrence's face, and do what they did with Mark Hamill's voice, where Lawrence does the lines and the acting of the voice, and then using AI, they de-age his voice back to the way it was in the movie. That is an option that they could do if they really wanted to.
That is an option. Unfortunately, I think Paramount is probably too cheap to do that. But that would be, for continuity's sake, that would work really well. Mm-hmm. If done properly, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. It definitely would need to be done well. Another actor too that kind of came to mind as well, because part of the difficulty with like a recast kind of also is that Lawrence Luckinbill had such a striking jaw and face, that it was like it's kind of difficult. Another actor that I haven't seen him for a lot of years, so his voice might be completely off, so I can't really say that. But did you ever see the show White Collar?
Yes.
I feel like Matt Bomer could potentially pull it off as well. They have a very similar jawline.
Or what about the other guy from White Collar? His name escapes me. The one who's like the handler for Matt Bomer's, because Matt Bomer's the criminal.
Yes,
That guy could pull it off. He's been in a bunch of things. I'm completely blanking on his name.
Tim Dekay.
Yes, that's.
Oh man, that is a really, really good fan cast. I'm pulling up a picture of him now. Let's see. Typing in to see if there's pictures of him with a beard. Oh man. Honestly, I think that is a really good casting, man.
It just like you said that, and I just like, what about that? I'm like, what is that guy's name? I'm like, oh, that's just, he's got a very strong jawline as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like because I just Googled, I just typed in Tim Dekay beard, and like some pictures of him with a kind of a beard popped up, and yeah, he could absolutely pull that off. You give him like the Vulcan hairline, the Vulcan long hair, like we saw, he could definitely pull that off.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely all right. I'm putting that out into the Star Trek universe. That yes, they need to at least have him do a reading for that character.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Man, that was a brilliant fan casting. So, well, as we kind of conclude this episode on Strange New Worlds, kind of looking back on season 2 and season 3, is there any like final thoughts you'd like to say on like what you're hoping for and what you're hoping this season will accomplish?
I'm just looking forward to more adventures on the Enterprise. Just see how as we get closer and closer to the time of the original series, how it connects to that. I'm just looking forward to seeing it, to be honest. What about yourself?
I'm honestly the same way. Like, I'm so excited, after this long wait, I'm so excited to be seeing season 3. And, I am excited just to continue to get to know, these characters, because, having this episodic, format for the show, I love network TV. I've always, watched like NCIS, all those shows. So the episodic nature is really like comfort food to me. Like I love seeing it. But I also love that we get to see these characters in different challenging circumstances that change week to week, because I feel like, I've been able to get to know them more. So I'm excited to see more adventures with them. I'm excited to see more of where they go and where they develop, and just exploring more of the Star Trek universe, and seeing, planets and species that we haven't seen before and revisiting old ones that we love.
I will add one caveat to my thought. I'm hoping we finally get a full-on Ortegas episode, because she's great, and there's so many great characters, it's hard to get them all in, especially on a 10 episode season schedule. But I'd love to see Ortegas really get her standout episode.
I 100% agree. I really like her character, and I've always enjoyed what they've done with her in the previous seasons. But I agree, she needs a focus episode, absolutely, and hopefully she can get that this season.
Maybe there's some young hotshot guy who they say is a better pilot in the fleet than her, and he shows up on the Enterprise, and it's Hikaru Sulu.
Oh,
that kind of writes itself.
Oh, we already have an episode right there.
There you go. We've got our episode.
Oh, that would would work, and it would tie into the greater mythos. Absolutely, man. I tell you, we should be writers on the show.
We should. Hey, if you guys are, if Star Trek if you're accepting fan scripts like you did in the '90s, Inner Light was a fan script, so
it was. I did not know that.
It was hard to believe,
and that's one of the greatest episodes like Trek has ever made.
Oh, absolutely.
Man, well, that's true. Yeah, if you guys are accepting fan scripts, we have several for you that we could do. Oh, well, everybody, thanks for listening. To this episode. We hope you're as excited for Strange New Worlds season 3 as Jordan and I are. And make sure like and subscribe to this podcast, and it's available on all the platforms that you listen to podcasts on. And make sure you share it with your friends, and be on the lookout for our next episode coming soon.